Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news. This is Bloomberg Businessweek Daily, reporting from the magazine that helps global leaders stay ahead, with insight on the people, companies, and trends shaping today's complex economy, plus global business, finance, and tech news as it happens. The Bloomberg Businessweek Daily podcast with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
Well, female representation in the boardroom almost tripled since 2010, with most gender diverse companies delivering higher shareholder returns compared to male-dominated boards. This is according to some research from Bloomberg Intelligence. You got the numbers, Carol.
Yeah, listen, check this out, everybody. Women made up 26% of boards in 2023. That's up from 9% in 2010. So 13 years, highlighting how regulations in Europe, US, and Asia that compel change are impacting global corporations. This is again from a Bloomberg Intelligence report that was put out in December.
Heather Spilsbury is Chief Operating Officer of 50/50 Women on Boards. It's a global nonprofit that looks to create a gender balance on corporate boards. She joins us here in the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You were here a year ago with Carol.
Yes, I was the Chief Operating Officer. Now I'm the CEO. Clarification.
CEO. Forgive us.
All right, changing in the Google Doc.
Great.
So you were here a year ago.
Yes.
And a lot has changed.
A lot has changed
since then. I'm just curious what the world looks like to you right now.
You know, it's interesting because obviously we're an organization that's committed to elevating women in the pipeline to corporate board service. And we're committed to positively impacting corporate governance because it's good for business. And we've always said that. We've never used really the acronym of DE&I. So when we get into these conversations, especially with corporations, right, we've noticed that the language needs to change so that they understand really what we're here to support and why we're here to support it. Women still don't hold the same amount of seats as men. The research from our standpoint shows that women hold 30.2% of the seats as of Q4 2024, which means that we have a ways to go just from a gender equality standpoint. And this isn't about representation or equality. It's about making sure that you have talent in the pipeline that is being looked at, that may be under-networked, that may not have the same opportunity.
Well, the pushback that we are seeing certainly from the administration, whether it's in academia, whether it's across corporate America, whether it's across the government, the pushback, are we going to see, like, what are you hearing as you talk to corporations? Are they saying, yep, we are going to change what we do, or are they going to continue business as usual with these DEI initiatives, but just not talk about it?
It's a little bit of both. I would say that the environment just depends on the corporation.
So some are pulling back.
Some are pulling back. Some are also saying we can do this, but we're going to be silent partners. Some are also saying we can do this, but we need to reframe how we're going to partner with you and the type of language we can use. And so us as a nonprofit, you know, we rely on corporate sponsorship to ensure that we can still run our programs and events for women, like 50 Women to Watch for Boards, like our board readiness workshops, like distributing research, like, you know, any of the programs that we have to offer women and to men, frankly, you know, because these events are an opportunity to network with directors.
Do you have to water down your message? Or messaging?
You know,
it's hard when you're, when the company's called, or
when it's called 50-50. But again, it's 50-50. So we're not asking for men to be eliminated from the equation. We just want to ensure that we're looking at other talent, which includes women, which includes people of color. And again, it goes back to those under-networked groups that maybe don't have the same opportunities as white men have had in the past, especially when it comes to securing a board seat and board governance.
But is that something we can talk about right now? Like, it seems like if you were to say that in an environment now,
it's as volatile as it is right now.
It's like you're persona non grata. It's like, it's a four-letter word, DEI.
It is. Well, yeah, and it's the acronym in and of itself that I think is being weaponized. And we're talking about merit. And when you look at the composition of a board, everybody that's appointed to a board seat should be viewed at from a merit standpoint. Do they have the expertise? Do they have the skills? You know, is that board also succession planning? Are they doing the right things? So that's what when we look at governance, we really need to look at that holistically.
Heather, one thing I do wonder, because women are now more than a third, right?
Right.
Of board members, and non-white directors, I think, are more prevalent as well. Does that ultimately help women going forward? Because the composition is more.
It
and
does.
just diversity in general.
It does. There is also some other research that shows that women are leaving boards much sooner than they used to, which means they may not have a voice on that board seat. There's more research on our end that needs to be done there, but there's also other things to look at, right? So even though they're attaining board seats, the amount of time that they're spending on that board is something that needs to be reviewed. I would say that it does help because women end up supporting other women, like men end up supporting other men. I mean, it's just natural, right? It's in our own bias. But I think what we've seen from our research is when women are appointed to boards, they are committed to diversity. And that's not a bad thing because when you're looking at your company, who are you serving as customers, clients? Are you a global organization? Do you need that expertise and experience?
So I reached out to Jeff Green, who covers these issues here at Bloomberg. And he made the point to me that women are now more than a third of board members. But there are some questions he pointed out about 40% being some sort of level of resistance, at least, in terms of what the workforce looks like right now, maybe until we see more retirement from baby boomers.
Yep.
Do you see that? Is there a resistance when you get to 40% of women on boards?
I don't know.
You think we can get to 50?
I think we can get to 50. I think it's going to take time. I think especially in the climate we're in right now, the numbers that we previously said that we'd reach gender parity by 2050, that may take longer, which is unfortunate because, you would think that in today's age where we've all, grown and evolved as humans and people, and as businesses, because really most businesses are global in some way, shape, or form, especially corporations that are publicly listed.
Right.
You would just think that the natural thing to do would be to include talent that has that expertise that comes from a different background or experience than someone else does. And that's not just about race, and it's not just about gender. Again, it goes back to expertise. What life experience do you have? What qualities do you add to the board that someone doesn't have? And they might give you a different perspective.
I am also curious when companies, a global company, and they operate in global markets, that may still embrace DEI initiatives.
That is a really good point.
How does that work out?
Yeah, and they do. And we have a couple of clear examples. I won't name those companies, but they are global companies and they are sponsors of ours. So they've said to us, we're going to lean in more on the international side where you have other chapters outside of the US, which is Mexico, Toronto, London, Tokyo, Nairobi, things of that nature where they want to get involved because they know nothing is changing there and they're still supportive of what our mission is and what we're doing.
Do they have to be, did they have to be quiet about this now? Did they used to sort of talk about their support of issues such as this and now maybe they're still supporting but they're not advertising it?
Correct, but it wasn't so much as at a regional level, to be frank. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to support the US in this way and then international regions in this way from where we're based. It was more of holistic conversations about supporting women on boards. I think now we're seeing more of a shift with those global companies specifically who are saying, let's put more of our dollars into this part of the business where you have events and where you're supporting women through educational programs.
But
then that tips the scale in a very different way.
So then what does it look like? What does the environment look like in the US 5 years from now?
Exactly.
Because that's when we'll start to see the effects of this.
And that's where I think globalization is so important and is key. We cannot look at ourselves as a country that's separated from other countries because we're not. We're all so intertwined.
From a perspective of, for example, a head of state, we are separate from that.
True.
In that we're a country that has never had a female head of state.
True.
And a lot of, our quote unquote peer countries have.
But think of companies like Apple. I mean, they rely heavily on China for their products and to be able to get that at a decent price. And so having to manufacture that here in the US creates a huge divide for us as a nation where we have to now bring this all in-house. That's a lot of infrastructure to build that we don't currently have and doesn't exist.
One last question, 20 seconds. What does this environment do to your mission? Does it slow it down a little bit?
No, we are leaning in, and I know other organizations are doing the same thing. I think it's really important for us to stay committed to what we're doing. We're committed to elevating women in the pipeline to corporate board service with allyship from men, also supporting men on their journeys, of course. If they, they're welcome to come to our events and meet corporate directors. We just want to ensure that corporate governance is positively impacted because, again, it's good for business, and so it doesn't do us any good to be quiet and sit back.
Have you called the White House? Are they taking a meeting?
No, they have not.
Okay. TBD. Heather, thank you so much. So
Thanks
glad
for having me.
We can check in with you. Heather Spilsbury, she's the Chief Executive Officer of 50/50 Women on Boards, joining us in studio. Thank you so much.
This is the Bloomberg Businessweek Daily Podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Listen live weekday afternoons from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg.com, the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn, and the Bloomberg Business app. You can also watch us live every weekday on YouTube and always on the Bloomberg Terminal.